going to speak to us briefly before we go into our panel. One thing I like to say, and I said this to the families last night, is I like to have that last clip where you see my mother for who she truly was in her last moments, because we see her in her last moments and hours. But she was always a woman when a camera came around, she would say, "Get that camera out of my face," and then she would pose. So I like to have that shot in there to give some context. I'll talk very briefly a little bit about why I think we're here in some of the situations and my connection to the work and my connection to the Gesu School. I was thinking about this. I had a moment yesterday, a moment with Sister Ellen, actually, a friend of mine named Dana Sanders, who went to high school with me, who grew up in my neighborhood. I went to St. Athanasius and he went to St. Raymond's, and we didn't meet until we both got to Germantown Friends School. And we both were sitting in the back when the film started, and Sister Ellen walked in, and we both sat up straight and folded our hands. And I told her this afterwards, and she looked at me and she said, "Good, it worked." You know, and it was a moment to say that this education that the students obtain here stays with you, you know, in lots of positive ways. And what we're here to talk about is this journey through the independent school. And I wanted to reflect on what happened last night when we watched the film. We had a number of parents in the room, lots of younger parents, younger than me, I should say, and there was a lot of discussion, and what I hear a lot when I screen the film, I get both sides. I get, that wasn't my story at all, that isn't my story at all, and then I get, that's exactly my story, you know, and I heard from lots of families who were concerned about the various schools they've visited and they've seen their children interact, places they've seen their children interact, and where they might be sending their children off to. And my discussion with that is that, my response to that often is, I'm glad we're here. When I was in high school, I think this conversation was happening, but it was lots of parents around the kitchen table, outside the school, talking to one another, saying, this is great, but something doesn't feel right, what do we do? And it's really powerful, and I want us to reflect on where we are right now today, that we're actually approaching from a systemic level, where we're saying the school has to take more responsibility for what situation we're bringing our young people into, because that is a very important moment, and it's a great shift. You know, I really do believe in these schools. I had a tremendous and incredible, wonderful education. I like to describe it best that when I got to Germantown Friends School, I had read everything that Judy Blume had ever written, you know? And I got to GFS, and all of a sudden, this new literature was put in front of me. I had Toni Morrison. We had summer reading at Germantown Friends School. I had never had summer reading. And our summer reading list was Sula by Toni Morrison, The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck, and Mary Renault's A King Must Die. And me being the kid I was like, what is all this stuff? And I just jumped into it, and I read and read and read, and was really moved by it. And the community was a proper fit for me in some aspects. In other aspects, as you saw in the film, I think my film serves as a bit of a tragic tale, you know, because I went into my school and I thought, these people are successful, they have their whole families, they're wealthy, they must be right. Where I come from must be wrong. And I had that notion and that idea. And my family felt like a guest at the school. They didn't feel they were a part of the school. And the message I communicate and try and give to families, and it was great to hear families last night say, we're walking in a different perspective. We have the Gesu education, and we're prepared in different ways. And that's wonderful and powerful. But I also give the message to young people that moments happen. I just talked to a teacher who teaches here, whose name I didn't get her name. We were talking out in the hallway, and she was telling me she went here, then she went to Shipley, you know, and her first day of school, someone said, have you ever seen anybody get shot? You know, and the second question was, do you live next door to a crack house? This is 9th grade, you know, and here she is trying to adjust, get her class schedule, learn how to fit into a society, and children, just being children, ask questions like this because they're around someone new and different. And my discussion and question is, how do we make that individual strong enough in the face of those moments? And then how do, on the other side, educate a community to help our students not think and work in that fashion? You know, we can't control every single moment a child has, an interaction that they have. We just can't, it's impossible. But we can do all we can to say, you know, this is a community striving for excellence. Let's think about how we interact with each other. Let's think about what may be our implicit biases, you know, that we bring to the table. I wanted to also offer a quotation that I came across this morning. There's an educator and writer by the name of Eric Cooper, and he did a piece on the 5th in the Huffington Post, and the article was called Learning While Black. And I want to read this one quotation that he offered from, another person that he pulled the quotation from, and this is the quotation. "We should think of our children as wildflower seeds in an unmarked package. We can't know what will emerge. All we can do is plant them in fertile soil, give them plenty of water and sunlight, and wait patiently to see the uniqueness of their beauty." I'm going to read that one more time. "We should think of our children as wildflower seeds in an unmarked package. We can't know what will emerge. All we can do is plant them in fertile soil, give them plenty of water and sunlight, and wait patiently to see the uniqueness of their beauty." And when I think of that quotation that he pulled for his article, I'm trying to find the exact citation, but my handwriting gets messy, forgive me. But I think when he pulled that quotation, I thought, okay, I really like that moment and that idea of we create these people and we're bringing them forward and we're trying to help them become great and beautiful and powerful individuals. And this is why I believe in independent education. I was talking to the KYW reporter outside, and she asked my opinions on the Philadelphia education system. And my thought was, I shared the film with a friend who's from Canada, a Haitian Canadian, I guess you would say, or Canadian Haitian. And his response after seeing the movie was, why doesn't every child in America have this kind of education? And I said, that's a very deep and important question. And I'm on the road taking this film around to 300 plus high schools asking that exact question. And then while we look at these communities that are taking this step and making this move, what can we do to encourage them to be more open and more accepting and just move differently? Because we have such important work to do in this space. And I really do appreciate the work that Gesu is doing. And some points I want to make, and then I'll get a conclusion, and then I'll bring our panel up and have a discussion. Some things I often say, and I said this last night to the families, that we can't just send our children to the school. The entire family has to go to the school. Parents should be involved and active and move past that moment of feeling like a guest in the school, which I mentioned earlier. And once again, on the other side, it's the school's responsibility. I've been to so many institutions that have said, well, we have a hard time. We have nothing in common with the families, And I say, let's think about this, Let's move past our taste in food and music and difference and think about the one thing you both mightn't have in common. What do you think it is, And they finally arrive at, oh yeah, we have the student in common. And we need to come together and talk about this kid and their experience. So my one big point is the entire family must come to the school. And then the other notion, I think our gospel choir that we saw this morning speaks to that well and reminded me of my time at Germantown Friends School, is there a space for the child to call his or her own at the school? How can the student really own their experience at the school? What is theirs? I'll give my story that made me think of the gospel choir, that was a beautiful selection. Thank you for that. I remember going to Germantown Friends School, and it was our freshman year, and the Yehudi Menuhin School came and did a great concert, and they did Ein Kamenach, and that was my first time seeing classical music live, and I was like, wow, this is great, this is amazing. And every ninth grader was required to do choir, and we were doing choir and we were doing music, and for some reason, I was like, this music sounds good, but something's wrong with it for me. At the time, I couldn't articulate the different tones and spaces in music. I couldn't say that. I grew up on a downbeat, and we were on a different beat here at Germantown Friends School. And so we were in a rehearsal, and we were singing Amazing Grace, and we sang, oh, amazing. And I raised my hand and said, that ain't how you sing Amazing Grace. And my teacher said, how do you sing it, Andre? And I belted out my little gospel version. And he goes, great, you'll sing that in assembly next week. And I was like, oh man, me and my big mouth, But what I kept talking to, because I was really into choir in high school, and I kept talking to my teacher, and what he actually did is he came to my church at 11th and Lehigh in North Philadelphia from Chestnut Hill one Sunday to see what I was talking about and how our church service went. That kind of commitment, that kind of connection, that kind of acknowledgement of a student and their experience, I think is very deep and important, and the schools have to commit to that, and we have to push and encourage the schools to do that. And the other point that I'll make, and then I will conclude, I promise, is that to stress what I'm sort of getting at, the school acknowledging how important it is for each of the family and the school to embark on this journey together. You know, it's not a child dropped off on Monday through Friday or even Saturday and Sunday in lots of schools. It's not a kid coming home and talking about the school. It's we're on this journey together, and we have to make it. It's a wonderful and intense and beautiful opportunity, and my life was forever changed. And I'm so happy that we're taking part in a systemic conversation to look at this question, to take it from the parents in the cars sort of grumbling and mumbling about their experience to the school saying, the system saying, okay, what can we do as an institution? And I'll tell one more story, then I'll close out. I relayed this last night to Mr. Bryan, I think. At my high school, we had a program once a year, and it was called, it had a very unfortunate name, and it was a name that just grew out of the Quaker tradition. And it was one event a year where the families of color would get together to raise money for the Community Scholars Program, which is how I attended Germantown Friends School. And each parent would bring a potluck dish, and we eat, and there'd be a speech and some music and a celebration. And the event, when I was there, had the most unfortunate name in the world. And I remember the day I came home and I said, Mom, I need you to make a dish for this event. And the event was called the Poor Man's Supper. And I remember coming home and saying, Mom, I need you to make a macaroni and cheese for the poor man's supper. And she just kind of looked at me like, excuse me? And I said, well, it's an event, and I described it. What I saw that's a really powerful change, because it's a Quaker tradition. There wasn't any intention behind it. It's a name they use to say, you know what, all people come together and we'll all be wealthy by each person bringing a dish. So therefore, it's a poor man's supper. Now it has a different name, because the family stepped up and said, we don't like that the one black event that we have at the school is called the Poor Man's Supper. And the school said, never thought about that, you know, and they changed it. And that may seem simple, but I think about how in my time, families sort of said it, but didn't push for change. They sort of accepted, and they accepted that role as a guest. But what I saw after I left, which is a great change, is folks really stepping forward and owning the experience. So, and the honest, serious conclusion is that I'll say this: when I embark on these conversations, I ask us to move past the safe space. I want us to go into a space of taking risks and voicing our mind and talking about what we're experiencing, what we're thinking, and what's happening for us, so we can all work together and grow and change this world and make it better for these wild sunflower seeds that we're planting. So thank you so much for having me and listening.
Can I welcome the panelists, please, to the stage? Thanks.